Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Very warm welcome to everyone who is joining us online on Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, and special welcome to everyone who is in person at the center. Everyone's presence is important, but anyone who makes the effort to be in person gets a little extra credit. So greetings of peace on behalf of Manhattan Meditation Center and Peace Village Learning and Retreat Center of Brahma Kumaris. So before we start today's program, just a very quick look at what is coming in the next few days and a week. So Monday, November 13th, 7-day Raj Yoga meditation course is starting. Reviving the Higher Self. The timings are in the evening from 6:30 to 8 p.m. November 18th, we have a workshop. The title is Future is Now. Do you believe that? To know how the future is now, you need to join the workshop. The timings are in the morning from 11 to 12:30, and it's on November 18th. Besides this, Manhattan Meditation offers a lot of meditation practices throughout the week. Power Boost, online only from Monday to Friday at noon time. Sanctuary of Peace, in person, Monday to Thursday in the evening from 6 to 6:30. And we also offer podcast services, which also have meditation commentaries on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. Recordings of this talk and the previous talks are available on Manhattan Center's YouTube channel. So we keep you busy throughout the week, and then we also offer you all the recordings to listen at your leisure and comfort, leisurely on your own time in your own comfort zone. So coming to today's topic. Today we are bringing a special program. In India, we have a festival called Diwali. Many of you who might be from the Indian descent or have Indian friends or living in New York for a while might already be familiar with this. Diwali is called the Festival of Lights. I know in New York, at least in South Seaport, there's a big celebration for Diwali. If you are in New York and if you haven't never seen that, maybe you make a time this year to go join the festivities. So today's topic, Diwali, the Festival of Light. And to share thoughts on this topic, we have a guest speaker, Pratibha Daya. She is with the Brahma Kumaris organization from 35 plus years. She is based in Johannesburg, South Africa. She's a center coordinator there. She provides her services for the interfaith religion services. She also works with women organizations for the upliftment of women. Presently, she's in US and working with the UN team. Brahma Kumaris also have a team which is working with the United Nations. And she's mainly here because there'll be a retreat in our Peace Village for the women world leader. So we are going to hear her thoughts and insights on today's topic, the Festival of Lights, Diwali. I'm going to invite Pratibha. Very warm welcome.
Thank you, Anita. Good evening, everyone, and lovely to be with all of you this evening, especially as we explore this lovely festival of lights. As Anita shared, one of the areas of involvement that I've had in South Africa is really working with many interfaith groups. And one of the things that you find is that irrespective of the traditions we may come from, the symbol of light is always prevalent, isn't it? Be it a church, be it a mosque, be it a synagogue, be it a temple, light plays a very important element. And the Festival of Lights is something that many traditions also celebrate. And I was thinking, why? Why is light such an important aspect? Because light in many ways symbolizes hope. You know, the day ends with the night, but we all know that after the night, the dawn will break. It's just a matter of time, that the night won't carry on forever. And I was feeling in some ways that it's more than just a hope, that within our psyche, there's a deep knowing. There's a deep knowing that light will always prevail, because light symbolizes truth, light symbolizes righteousness, light symbolizes goodness. And so no matter how dark the night is and how dark things may seem, and right now our world is going through quite a dark patch in a way, but in our deeper self, we know that truth will prevail, that light will prevail, that goodness will prevail. And so we celebrate these festivals of light with that awareness. And sometimes, in the Brahma Kumaris, we like to introduce this concept of time, because when we understand time, then we can make sense of things. And right now we talk about a time of transition or a time of transformation. And, in this time of transition and transformation, it doesn't happen in an orderly way. If you think about it, even when you plant a seed in the ground, it's not like after 2 days you'll see this and after 3 days you'll see this. It happens in its own way. And, things have to break apart first, like how the outer shell of the seed has to break apart first before the root pushes out and the stem pushes out, and it finds its way through the layers of soil till it reaches above. So this process of transformation is never orderly. It always seems chaotic. But we know that it will work its way through, because there's a deeper truth that's guiding it. There's a deeper principle that's at play here. So when we celebrate this Festival of Lights, I like looking at it, is that it's this whole thing that all of life always will gravitate ultimately towards wholeness and towards light. And that's the knowing that we all hold in our souls. That's the knowing that we all hold in our beings. And so therefore, for centuries, we've celebrated, Festival of Lights. When we talk about light, I was thinking of it on 5 different levels. And the first one is, light is all about an awakening. When they always say dawn breaks just after the darkest hour. And when dawn is breaking, before you see even the sun's light like coming through, there's like a stirring that happens. You hear the birds first. It's still dark, but you hear the birds. It's like life begins to take form. And so for me, this thing of an awakening that happens in the darkest hour, we know that this is not the ultimate reality. Something begins to stir in our hearts, that there's something different, there's something truer, there's something deeper that we all long for and that we knew once in a way. So this awakening to something that is more meaningful, that is of greater value to the self, that holds a deeper sense of truth. And in this awakening, then, it helps us in some ways to become detached from the old. And that is important because we need to let go of the old if we are to create the new. I think for most of us is we want the new, but we also want a bit of the old, right? And that's where the tension is, right? Because the new is not clearly seen as yet. The new is still unfolding. And it's almost like a faith in the light has to deepen for us to let go of the dark, for us to let go of the old. So when they celebrate Diwali, the next day is always celebrating of the new year, because the symbol of bringing in the light is also about awakening to the light, which means a letting go of the darkness, letting go of our attachment to the darkness. Now that sounds strange, but you know, the darkness can only remain dark because we attach to it. You know, if we want newness, we have to release ourselves. And in some ways, that is about the invisible, which the light is promising, but we can't quite see right now, is something that we need to deepen as a faith in. And as we do that, then that faith, or that giving ourselves the space to experience that light, is also what then enables us to deepen that conviction, that connection with that light. And one of the things that helps us to really enter into the space of light is taking out the noise. Our minds and our lives are too full of noise. It's the traffic outside, number one, but it's also the traffic inside, right? All the thoughts and the impressions and the memories and the arguments in the head and all sorts of things that happen in the head. And to know that I can only connect with that deeper truth of who I am when I give myself that opportunity to quieten the noise in my own mind, you know, because when I let that noise settle, it's like then it gives space for the light to shine, because that light needs silence. Sometimes the image that works well for me is like, you know, the old TV screens, and you had those aerials that you had to adjust so that, I'm really giving away my age, right? You had to adjust the aerial sometimes so that you can get a clear picture. Otherwise, it's too much of static. And when there's static, you can't see clearly. You can see something trying to, you know, show itself, but too much of static. And that's what happens, that there is a truth that's wanting to emerge, but there's too much noise. And so therefore, it's like that static that needs to settle, then I can see the light. So there's light means truth as well. And so the first truth is always the truth of who I am. And we've been conditioned into thinking I'm male or I'm female, I'm black or I'm white, I'm American or African, I'm Muslim or Jew. All of that is a conditioning and a labeling. And all it has done is that it has separated us from each other, but it has also separated us from ourselves. Because as long as we get caught up in these so-called labels that we've been conditioned into believing who we are, we can't tap into the spirit of who we are. So I brought this because in Hindi, they call this a diya. During Diwali time, this is a modern version. Usually they have an earthenware lamp with a little bit of oil and a real flicker, a little bit more real one. Yeah, this is a diya, right? Can they see a diya, right? Earthenware, very beautifully decorated, and they put a light there. And why I brought up the diya, because diya means the light. You know, say, so during Diwali time, they would decorate their homes with light. There's little diyas at every door that they would put. And diya also means to give. Diya, dena, you know. So it's amazing the connection. To be a light means to give. And giving is the true nature of the soul. It's who we originally and what we originally all about. We are here to shine our light. A light never takes, it radiates. And it never chooses where its light must shine. It just shines its light, you know. So the symbol in the festival of Diwali, in the mythology, it was that it was a very dark night when the prince was returning back to the kingdom after being in exile for 14 years. And because he was returning and because it was such a dark night, everyone in the city lit diyas to welcome him back into the city. And so that whole analogy and understanding, firstly, I am light. And being light means that awakening to my truth, which means that I'm here to share my truth, which is peace, which is love, which is purity, you know, which is joy. That is what I'm here to share and radiate and give. And the thing about light, especially when you take a candle, when it gives its light to another candle, its light never diminishes. Its light grows in a way. And that's the nature of the soul. The more I give, the more I grow. The more my radiance grows, I never get diminished. It's when I start taking and holding back that I begin to feel my own strength diminishing. But when I give, when I radiate, that's when I begin to feel that radiance growing, that light growing. So knowing who I am and reconnecting with my true nature That's what Diwali is all about. That's what it's the festival all about. And it's interesting when you look at the mythology, because what set in the darkness, what created the story is very entertaining. I won't go into the details, but what set in the darkness was the seed of jealousy. When I'm not, and I don't know myself, I know the fullness of who I am, then my vision and attention gets pulled to others. And I begin to compare myself with others. And that's like the seed that brought in the darkness, you know. And so the opposite of that is awakening and celebrating and honoring who I am. And one beautiful thing is also just this recognition that, you know, each one of us is unique. And each one of us has a unique contribution to make. We all have a unique part to play. No one can play your part better than you. And when we really connect with who I am and what my part is, in a sense, and when I'm talking about part, it's not confined to roles, you know, that I'm a mother or I'm a accountant or I'm a whatever. Those are roles that we play, but my part is something deeper about me that I bring into every role that I play. You know, I can put on many hats, for example, in terms of responsibilities, but there's a uniqueness of me that I bring into every hat that I wear. It could be my lightness. It could be my sense of clarity. It could be my gentleness, you know. It could be my love for simplicity. That even in the most complex situations, I bring it to simplicity and I'm able to move things forward because of that. It could be my playfulness. I mean, we need that energy as well, don't we? So each one of us, we bring something unique. And I think so much of our own contentment and our own development as we grow is linked to this thing of knowing myself, knowing my part, knowing my speciality, knowing what I bring into this space, and knowing that what I bring into this space is equally valuable than what someone else may be bringing into the space. You know, some may have to play the role of MC, and some will have to play the role of ushering, and some may have to play the role of audience. But each one's role, you bring something with you as you play that role. And that which you bring with you, that your special uniqueness, is what contributes, you know. And can I connect with that? And can I feel a deep sense of contentment because I know who I am and I know what I have to offer and share? And that then takes me away from looking at others, enables me to be content and deeply stable. And also, it brings meaningfulness into everything that I do. And I feel that that sense of living with a sense of meaning is what anchors us. You know, it enables us to feel very grounded and stable. So knowing who I am, knowing what is my my inner quality that I bring, and to know that that is my gift. And it's a gift that's given through me in a unique way. So the light, the next aspect of light as well, is also the light of connecting with the source of light. We can transform to a point, but we need power to help us break through the old habits we have created. So I sometimes like using the expression, like because of our conditioning, we created certain habits, and these habits are like gravity. They pull us. We know better, but ever had that experience of I know better, but I get pulled, So we need power. We need power to break through the gravity of our habits. And that's where I feel that connection with the source. Anita was mentioning that I'm here specifically because we were facilitating a retreat for women leaders. And it was a program that we putting together, experimenting and developing, called Shiv Shakti Leadership Approach. And it's one thing is recognizing who I am, and through this connection with the source which is ever light, the source which is ever benevolent, the source that is always loving. As I connect with that source, I am able to draw this energy within my being. And that energy has a transforming effect on me. Because it's through this connection that it helps me to free myself from those gravity of habits, because all of our so-called habits we created was a way of surviving. Everything. I resorted to anger because I couldn't feel peace. I resorted to possessiveness and attachments because I couldn't feel love within me. So it was all a reaction to things that I couldn't deal with. So much of the traumas, the challenges we see in the world today is because of traumas people have experienced. So they found unhealthy ways of surviving. So how do we heal from that? We need the experience of pure love. It's only love that can heal. I want to share one story. We had a dialogue once in Cape Town. I was living in Cape Town at that time. And we had maybe about 20, 25 different representatives of different NGOs. And we were talking about transformation. And there was a guy who came from an organization that worked with juvenile boys. Now, if you know South Africa a little bit, a lot of segregation and communities where relatively disadvantaged in terms of economic opportunities and education. There's a lot of gangsterism in those communities as well. So he was working with young boys from those communities. And he was said part of the program was to give them a week. So they would work with them for several weeks. And then for 1 week, or up to 5 days, they would take them for a hike into the bushes, around Cape Point. And for 5 days, they had to live by themselves. So they were given a tent and basic things, and they were asked to be by themselves for 5 days, out in nature. If there was an emergency, they had a way of getting help, but otherwise they had to be for those 5 days by themselves, and then they would regroup again. And when they would regroup, it would be a time where they would reflect and share stories. And he said 99% of the time, when they would sit around the campfire, and the boys, because they were by themselves for 5 days, and they were, already not trained, I would say, but already supported in a way so they could self-reflect for 5 days by themselves. They looked at their life stories. They said 99% of the time, they were just normal boys, just boys growing up, and then one really traumatic experience and something flips, whereby then they resort to violence as a way of coping and living. And so the thinking and the philosophy of this whole program is that if one traumatic experience can do that, then by providing a nurturing, loving environment, you can flip the child the other way. Violence is a learned behavior. It's not a natural behavior. But if you provide the right environment, it can shift over. So transformation requires the experience of deep love. So Diwali is also about that. Festivals of light is also about that. It's really about us connecting with that higher source, because it's through that connection, through the experience of love that is pure, unconditional, a love of the soul, not the love of my achievements or the love of my possessions or the love of whatever, but just the love of the soul. It's that experience of love that releases the soul from learned behavior and enables the soul to feel safe enough to return to its purity, to its innocence, to its light. I had one beautiful experience in meditation. This was many years ago. I was in Mount Abu, and just before I went to Mount Abu, I went through a patch where I was reading a little bit on Jung philosophy, psychology, and all of that little bit. And, they always talk about the dark side of the soul. And it was sort of like not fitting into my head at that time. What do they mean by all of this? And I was sitting in meditation, and I had such a lovely realization. And the realization was that if I'm light, a light doesn't have a shadow. A shadow is only created when something is placed in front of the light. And so that's it. We don't have shadows. Shadows is learned behavior. We are light. And just that in itself, creates this feeling that to let go of what we've picked up is not a big deal. I've picked it up, I can't drop it. But I need a deeper experience of truth that will give me the capacity, but the reassurance that I can tap into that deeper truth. So always remember, I am light. I have no shadows. And if I do see any shadow, it's to question myself, what am I holding on to? That's not true, because that's where the shadows are being created from. So I think I want to stop there and give a bit of space if there are questions or comments, and then take it from there further.
I'm a little bit more curious about.
One moment. Oh, sure, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I've been taking notes and I'm a little curious about your last point about shadows. My family's Hindu, and my father has always said that there's really no dark side of the moon. And you know, we're kids, so we make fun of that. But in essence, correlating to what you just mentioned, I see how that makes sense from a philosophical and metaphysical way. So can you and Barker enlighten more or speak more on shadows?
Yeah. Shadows are really, as I said, how it's survival methods. So what happens is, I'm going to use just the example of a child. When a child is, when a baby is born, it has no concept of gender or of race or of religion or any of these labels, right, that we give ourselves and each other. There's a pure innocence. There's just pure love, okay? So whenever we see a baby, no matter who it is, even the most gruffest guys, they all go very soft and, because there's a kind of attraction that immediately happens when you see that purity. Now, that little baby, as it grows up, it starts becoming aware of its body, number one, and then you are taught, you boy or you girl or you white or you black or whatever. So what begins to happen, you begin to create an identity that's molded on physical aspects of yourself. And so then what begins to happen, that you naturally then begin to compare yourself. Okay. And we live in a world where we are taught you have to be the prettiest, you have to be the fastest, you have to be the smartest, you have to be. Okay. You're never told you are good enough. We are taught that we have to be. And because that is what we are taught, in a way, we start comparing. And sometimes I am the fastest, but sometimes I'm not. And so what it begins to do is it begins to impact my sense of self and how I begin to value myself. And that then begins to create, coping mechanisms. So if I feel I'm not good enough, then I resort to behaviors. Maybe I throw tantrums so I get more attention. Okay. Or I begin to resort to anger as a way of being heard. Or I withdraw and I sulk, or I become unhealthily introverted in a way. I become afraid of the world. So the so-called shadows, behaviors that are not expressing the light that I am, is because I begin to feel inadequate of who I am, and that is because I've been taught to see myself through a lens that is comparing myself in a very physical way. So at the spiritual level, we have to teach ourselves that sense of identity that we've created of ourselves on the basis of the physical is limited. It's temporary. It's not the truth of who I am. Who I am is consciousness. I am the light. And I need to restore that awareness of myself. But more so, what we aim to do is to experience ourselves as consciousness. And that's what meditation is all about. It's about experiencing that awareness of myself as consciousness, as light. Because once that becomes something that not only I know intellectually, but I feel it within my being, then I can let go of the other things. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Until somebody comes up with a question, maybe I can ask something. You made a very powerful statement saying, quieten the noise in the mind. It gives space, that light to shine, right? Can you give some methods to quieten the mind? Because that's one of the hardest thing everyone finds.
Yes, absolutely. I think, of course, for me, I've used the practice of meditation as the method to quieten the mind. And it's a practice that I feel I have to continue refining in a way. One of the things that I find is important is always to start off by learning to relax. Because I find that there's a strong connection between body and mind, and most of us hold tension, and we've made tension a norm. I remember I was working for a guy, it was my first job, and he was originally from Durban, which has a more quieter pace than Johannesburg, and I was in IT, so the client was in Johannesburg, and he would moan and groan every time he had to come to Johannesburg, and I would tell him, Nick, it's not so bad, just relax. He said, Pratibha, someone can be knocking you on the head all the time, and eventually the knock becomes normal. So he just thought, Johannesburg's not normal. This pace is not normal. So I don't know what Nick would do if he's in New York. But I always remembered that analogy because it's true, isn't it? Something that's not healthy becomes a norm because it's so frequent. So I really find that learning to slow down the mind, we also have to learn to slow down the body. And so learning to relax consciously, learning to breathe deeply, learning to eat your food slowly and don't rush while you're eating, learning to be more conscious in what you are doing automatically begins to slow down your thinking. So that's at a very basic level that I find as a first step, Just become more conscious in what you are doing. Be more present in what you are doing. And you begin to feel that begins to quieten that, to slow that racing mind. I also found that we live a lot in our heads. Am I right? We could be sitting here, but our heads are somewhere else, right? And I find that it's almost like to become present in my body is the first step as well. So the deep breathing, the becoming aware, the conscious relaxation is also becoming more present here, and then what I find is that the thing with the mind is that, and the thing with habits in general, because our thinking is also habitual. So the noise is a habit. It's not natural. It's a habit we've created. So habits are never removed in isolation. You always have to learn to replace a habit. And so what I find is that instead of fighting the noise, it's about consciously creating a pattern of thought that is more conscious, that has a higher frequency as well of energy. So personally, of course, I meditate, but I also engage in spiritual study. Because what does that do? It provides me with something that I focus on, something positive that I feed myself on, something that I align my thinking on, so that when I have something consciously that I prepare myself for, then what happens is the noise quietens off because I have focus. Someone once mentioned it very beautifully when he said, from the time you wake up in the morning, your attention is on auction. Everything is calling on your attention, isn't it? So that will always be there, but do I give myself a focus? And that's why first thing in the morning, it's very good to give yourself a particular focus, a thought, a virtue that you want to focus on, something that you give yourself to focus on, because that directs your energy. Rather than letting everything else direct your energy, you are then able to direct your energy. And that then makes the other noises more quiet. Other noises more quiet. And it's like, setting your own internal compass. Rather than letting events direct your course, you set your own internal compass. And I find that that's very useful then. Yeah. And one final practice that I find very useful for myself as well is I like journaling, especially at night. And it's just really about extracting for myself something meaningful from my day. And in that way, it's like I'm able to let go of the excess and keep what is meaningful with me to carry me through, because otherwise we just let events and situations and impressions keep creating that static inside. But when I extract something meaningful, I'm then able to release the excess.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very helpful points. I'm sure everyone will take the benefit. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'd like to take you to an experience of meditation. Everyone's good. Okay, great. Let's have some meditation together then. Is anyone here for the first time? First time meditation? No. Okay, so I invite you to just sit upright and relax. Taking a deep breath in and gently breathe out. Your own pace. I want you to just breathe in deeply, very consciously. Slowly breathe out. Let your out breath be longer than your in breath. Now, as you breathing, just be aware of your body, beginning from the tip of our head, and just imagine like a wave that's running through. As we scan our body and just allow each part to relax. So as you're breathing in, be aware of your forehead. Make sure there's no frown. Relax. Be aware of your jaws. Don't clench your teeth. Just relax your body. Release. Moving further down. Be aware of your neck muscles. And again, you can stretch them. Bring them to a place of relaxation. Breathe out. Be aware of the muscles in your shoulders. We tend to carry a lot of our stress in this area. So just feel your muscles relaxing. Drop your muscles. Drop your shoulders. Now relax the muscles along your spine. And as you do so, just feel your back being supported by the chair. Let your muscles become like jelly. Easy, light, soft. Moving down, be aware of your lungs, your stomach, the abdomen area. Okay, just relax and release. Continue to breathe deeply. Even the muscles in your thighs, your knees, your calves, down to your feet. As you relax your body, be conscious how your body begins to feel lighter. Be aware of how it's being supported by the chair, by the earth beneath your feet. Sense the quietness that begins to grow as you relax. Now, turn your attention inwards, just becoming aware that within this body is the life force, the energy within, which is the soul. And just be aware of this energy of the soul being most concentrated in the center of the forehead, behind the eyes, a light sparkling. I am light. And as light, I'm eternal. For a moment, just hold your attention on seeing yourself as this beautiful, sparkling energy of light. A diya, a point, radiant. And as a light, my true nature is to give what I am. I am peace. I am radiant with joy. I am love. These qualities are the many facets of my being. The innocence, the purity of heart. For a moment, just allow the self to step into beingness. Feel its radiance. Feel the joy of just being you. Knowing that when I return to this pure awareness of myself, I'm able to connect with that highest source, the source of love, the source of truth, that highest source of benevolence, who is also light. As a being of light, I belong. The one who is the source of light, Supreme Soul. This awakens in the soul, reaffirms in the soul an eternal relationship and connection. It allows me to feel purity of this love, unconditional, eternal, subtle. I hold this truth in my heart. That this love transforms the world. So I just hold this awareness in silence for the next few moments. Absorb and radiate. In a deep breath. And just allow this feeling to filter through you. And as you prepare to engage with the world around you, let this feeling, let this awareness guide you and carry you through. Thank you.
Thank you for the great Diwali, sister. Om Shanti.
Thank you. Om Shanti. Happy Diwali to all.
Thank you.
Happy Diwali to all. Thank you, sister.
Thank you and happy Diwali and best wishes to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. And just one extra announcement. This coming Saturday, we're having an open house. Also, a little bit celebration of Diwali. But there will be an exhibition of art, and there will be some live music and some dance movements and reflections. So you are all invited for that. It is an in-person program, so all the Zoomers can come and join us also. From 12 to 2 this coming Saturday. You're most welcome, and each one bring one. Or two or three. This Saturday from 12 to 2. And I think Anita already mentioned, but Monday meditation course is starting. So if you want to join for that, you're most welcome. You can come without registration if you want to come in person. If you want to join on Zoom, you will have to register to get the Zoom details. Okay. Thank you all. And there is, for those who are here in person, a little token and some sweet. And Pratibha will share it with you.
So before we go there, thank you so much for your beautiful insights, very informative, very helpful. We hope to hear more from you. Hope you are here for a little longer time. And thank you everyone for joining us, everyone who is online. We are going to end the session now, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali.
And happy Diwali to everyone.
Happy Diwali.
Yeah, just for everyone's information, Diwali is on this coming Sunday, actual Diwali, November 12th. So
Yeah. And for all of you that are on Zoom, here's the sweet for you virtually, okay?
Thank you.
And a blessing for you. Each day is new and precious. You realize this and welcome each moment with wondrous joy, okay? So for all of you.
wonderful. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.